All right, so today we're going to be doing something pretty cool. And this has been inspired by working on a personal project while I was looking at a website that was kind of similar to what I was going for. And I was wondering because they were using dynamic content on their website, although not Elementor. It's built with something else. I don't know exactly what, but I think it's pure code. And then I was wondering, how did they achieve the border around the dynamic content? And then I inspected their code and I couldn't believe it how simple it was in theory. In practice with Elementor is a little bit more fiddly. You need to go into the code and figure out things. So let's get into it and I'll explain everything. Alright, if you don't want to see how I built this loop grid and the design itself, skip to this minute here because there's some people who want to see this. So I'm going to try to balance things out. So let's get started. Let's start creating our loop grid. So I'm gonna add a container here and I'm gonna set this container to be full width and with a height of 60%. And I will remove any gaps and I will just change the row gap to be 30. And also I like to do this, remove the padding, although you can do that from the settings. I always forget that I can do that, but you can do that from the settings, Elementor settings. Anyway, so let's get started. I'm gonna give it a little bit of top because I want it to be a bit separated from what we have on top of the page. So let's get working with our container. I'm gonna also remove the direction. All right, so let's go and add our loop grid, and I'm going to create a template. That's how we start with loop grids. All right, let's add a container in this, and I'm gonna set this container to be full width 75 with a minimum height of 22. Whoops, 22. Of course, I'm going to remove the padding and remove any gaps. As for style, let's give it a background color. I already have it saved as well, and I'm gonna go to border and say border radius 10. I actually want to add some padding. I don't know why I removed it. Let's say 10. And that should do it. All right, so in this container, we are going to be adding another container. So make sure that you click on the container that you want the second container to go in. And there you go, we have a second container. So I am going to go, I'm gonna go to style. I'm gonna add a border radius of 10. Border is going to be solid and it's gonna be 1%. And the color is going to be neon green. So this is what we have so far. We are going to be doing the same thing we did with the parent container. We're going to set it full width and it's going to be as well 22 VH. And voila, this is how it's looking so far. And I'm going to set the background color to be dark blue, and I'm going to add an image in here. Image. Also, from this container, we can actually remove any padding. So our image goes from corner to corner. For the purposes of this video, I'm not gonna go way too much into it. We just want to have something in the loop grid so you can see how the effect of the box shadow works. So I am going to go and choose an ACF fill that I have already prepared in the backend, and I'm gonna go with card image block. And of course you don't see it right now in the editor, but we're gonna have a look on the preview. And let's save it and let's see what happens. And as you can see, since I have 3 images set in my backend, the images will appear here. All right. What we need to do is actually go to query our information because we need to set something as a source, and that is going to be, I think I'm going to go with blocks. Yes. All right. Okay. And let's go and change the layout. I want to have only 3 items per page and 3 columns. Turn on the equal height, and that's it for now. And I will change this as I add the code to see what happens when you add another element. I'm gonna go and publish this. Let's go have a look on the preview. and this is our loop grid, okay, at the bottom here. All right, so for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be adding a taxonomy, and I am going to grab one from here because it's already styled and I don't want to waste anybody's time. So I'm gonna paste it in here, I'm gonna move it up, and as you can see, it's already styled. What I can do is I can simply change the loop grid. I don't remember which one it was. Let's see, loop grid 3. All right, so this is the one that we need. I'm gonna go to blocks category. This is a lot of information that I have set in ACF in the backend. If you want a little bit more ACF, I can do that. As you can see, this is how our taxonomy works, and I actually wanted to have this here implemented so you can see that once the content changes, the border remains visible. It applies to each element in the loop grid. Okay, let me publish this and let's add the code, right? So I will be adding the code in the loop grid itself, and I'm gonna go to advanced and custom CSS, and I'm just gonna drop it in here. As you can see, nothing is happening right now because we need to go and look for our loop element, and you will see what I mean. This is very important. This number corresponds to each loop element that you have on the page. So since we have 3 loop grids here, it's gonna be very interesting for you to see. Let's go to inspect. So in order to identify your loop grid, just go here to this arrow, select an element on the page, which should be your loop item. And as you can see, it gets highlighted, and you can simply click on it and it will show you where it is in the code. So we need to have the data Elementor type as loop item, and next to it is the number of the loop item. So in this case is 1450. So let's go down and look for our loop item that we just built. So this is it. As you can see, it's 2048. All right, let's go back to our code. All right, so it's going to be 2048. And voila, and we have a little issue. As you can see, it's a little bit broken, but it's not broken. There is a little issue here that I cannot figure out why it's happening. Okay, so the little issue that I'm talking about is this. Let's go back to inspect our code and let me refresh it basically, and let's inspect. And you won't believe it. I mean, this should not be happening. I don't know what's going on here, Elementor, but this is not right. So as you can see, we have, guess what? Some padding that is between both columns and rows. And you will see, this is just, I honestly don't know. Look what is happening. If I disable the column gap, it's fixed. I mean, how crazy? And it's fixed. The crazy thing is that there's no column gap. Let's go to style. Gap between columns, gap between rows, 0, 0, 0. Well, if you go and set it to 0 and 0, it's fixed. This should not be happening. It's fixed. So if you have ever issues with this, make sure that you set the values to 0 and then increase or decrease as you need. Now, as I said, let's see what happens if we have more items added to the page. So let's say we set it to have 6 items. Since I only have 4, you see only 4. And as you can see, the next items that are going to be added to the page will also have their own border. Let's go and have a look. And look at this. This is pretty nice, right? And it seems like all the borders are more or less the same in terms of pixel width. It's pretty cool. And as you can see, there's no border on the left and on the right of the loop grid. It's on purpose because what's the point? It would make it look too boxy. But if you really want a border around it, go to advanced and go to border, go to solid and set it to right and left to be 1 pixels and set your color. And honestly, I would not do that because in my opinion, it doesn't really look that good. As you can see on the sides here, especially where we don't have any items on the page, it doesn't really look good. It looks a little bit broken. I would not advise it, and it's just not it, in my opinion. So I'm going to disable it and leave it as is. So there you go. I hope that this was helpful, and let me know if you have any issues. If you'd like to see what else you can build with Elementor, watch this playlist here or here. And if you have gotten any value out of this video, please consider subscribing, liking, and sharing this video, and I'll see you next time.